But the fact that America is this restless place doesn't mean it now defies the laws of humanity. It doesn't mean that there is an idea of America that has to be kind of... Now, it shouldn't be whiteness. It should not. And I think what Obama was trying to do, and why I felt encouraged by him, was that he was genuinely trying, understood, that there was a thing called America, but we could... In fact, we weren't polarized. We're not the red states or the blue states. We're the United States. Remember that?
Yes.
And also the notion that you can listen to the other side and that we have more in common, all that stuff. And that you can weave the story of the liberal story of progress into the original promise of America. So, in fact, it's bringing the original promise true. This is a beautiful way of putting it, and it fell fucking flat eventually. Not to me, but I felt like he was trying to find something that brings us together that does not deny our diversity.
Just storytelling is an incredibly important dimension of politics. And, this is something that Michael Lind wrote about so thoughtfully and creatively, this idea of storytelling as imperative. When you have rapid change, demographic change, cultural change, people need a moment to revise that American story. I think about, there's this post-60s American story and, the cult of Ellis Island and what have you. These are things that were not continuous throughout American history. These were stories that were revised, changed over time, that had deep resonance. And I always thought that, if you think about restrictionism in America today, it's exactly what I had anticipated, which is that, when you look at the 20s era restrictionism, why did it succeed? It succeeded because you brought in the children of immigrants from Ireland and Germany, from Catholic Northwestern Europe, to say, hey, we need to do something about the Southern and Eastern Europeans. Was there an element of bigotry and narrowness? Absolutely. But it was creating this new revised American story and thinking we need to control this precious thing. And then today, what I always thought was going to happen is that eventually Mexican Americans and other post-1965 Americans will be brought into this American story. And the thinking will be, we now need to take a moment. Now, again, my views on these issues substantively, I actually am quite pro-immigration. My big concern, which I think you share, is that if it is not perceived as lawful, if it is not perceived as being in the broad national interest. Yeah.
That point about which Arthur Schlesinger made in that really great book he wrote, something in the early 90s.
Disuniting of America?
Yes, which is that it is, if you are going to have a really varied immigration pool from different cultures, races, societies, countries all over the world, it actually becomes more important that there is something singular that they can all attach to, Americanness. And what you used to think of as Americanization, which is that everyone leaves their old identity behind, or at least puts it in second place and puts on a new American identity. There's something about being American that renders you different and separate, and that's what you have in common with everyone. It doesn't mean you necessarily deny everything about Europe, but you adopt, and so the idea is everyone eventually gets assimilated into the single idea of what being American is, whatever that might be, as opposed to, which is the melting pot, as opposed to the multicultural, multi-ethnic idea is that there is no single America. We're all a variety of identities that are actually often at war, and in fact, the society is defined by the way the left is now organizing it in terms of the internal struggle of those particular identities as opposed to unifying Americanness. It's about a constant division, a constant fight of the non-white against the white that carries on throughout history. Now, I'm blathering a little bit, but let me hold me for 1 second. When I think of that story, it's not Obama's story. The 1619 Project is not Obama's story. The 1619 Project and multiculturalism is not about finding a new idea of Americanness it is about abolishing the idea of Americanness in favor of something more radical and revolutionary. And there is no single national culture attached to that, as though it's a process of constant reinvention. Now, when I think of Trump, let's just go there for a second, and I just don't even think about what he said. And I just think of the images of this campaign, and I see "Make America Great Again" as I see him handing out fries at a McDonald's. I see him get assassinated. I see him escape by millimeters an assassination and hold up and pump his hand as the American flag is flying above him. And lo and behold, is he creating a fantasy of America touching all those icons? Yes. Okay, yes, that's what politicians do. That's what Reagan did. That's what every smart politician does. But guess what happened? What happened is that more Latinos, more Black people, more immigrants voted for him because they're not attracted to America to become they're attracted to America to become Americans. You come all this way and then you get told, sorry, that's out. You've got to be Latinx at this point. You've got to be LGBTQ, RST, WXYZ plus. And so the paradox here is that immigrants themselves, like you and me, appreciate Americanness as distinct from our own national heritage or our own particular identity, whether I'm a gay, whether I'm an Irish Catholic, whatever the hell I am, a white. And this idea the left has had that you have to pick between those two is actually completely wrong. It's the opposite.
You're getting at an interesting contradiction and tension, which is that there's a way in which, you'll typically hear from social scientists who work on these issues is that, assimilation is proceeding apace. In fact, it's more rapid than ever. And there's a level at which that's correct. If you're talking about English language acquisition, even when you're looking at newcomers to the country, they're more likely to be fluent in English already, what have you. That's true. But what they're missing is the context that you're describing, things that are less tractable, things that are just more about the texture of a society and the stories we tell.